Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between myself and Lojo here on Lost Temple. And wow, right as I start this game, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, okay, hopefully it'll go away. Lojo spawning as a blue Protoss player at over here at the 7 o'clock position of Lost Temple. Meanwhile, me spawning as the red Terran player over here on at the 1 o'clock position. So it is in fact going to be a cross spawn. So should be a pretty interesting. There's not going to be any crazy rush tactics, obviously. Actually, no, perhaps there will be some crazy rush or zerging in the very early of the game right now. Lojo now just pretty much doing a standard build, myself doing the same way. Right now, I think my thought process, here, actually let me try this. I'm going to go ahead and just only look from my perspective. So I will go ahead and try to tell you what I was thinking during the game throughout the whole entire game. I'm not touching the mouse whatsoever, so any movements that you see on the mouse is in fact going to be me as I was playing right now. So looking over here, moving out without SCV, gonna build an additional barracks right here in this position, and then complete this wall in, and now try to get some more minerals as well. So waiting, spamming minerals, and then able to start producing that SCV right now. And my hotkeys are currently setting 3 on the command center, 2 on the barracks, and 1 on that scouting SCV. So in order so that I can get to it very quickly. When I get my orbital command, I like to hotkey it on 0, so it's very easy to find, and I can scan whenever. That's a habit from the original StarCraft days. Also, 2, 3, and 4 are respectively barracks, factory, and starport for me. So 1 is my main army, 5 is my secondary army if I'm running with a secondary army, or if there's any casting units or anything that needs to be particularly microed. So that's what I've found to work fairly well for me. Also, most of the hotkeys are now built into the left-hand side, or on your left hand. So if your hand is on ASDF, you'll be able to hit pretty much every single hotkey, and there's no real reason to move out your hand. I come in with this SCV, and I see that he's already got that gateway and now getting the Zealot. So that Zealot is out, and I see double gas. So double gas pretty much tells me that I cannot do a lot of Reaper harassment, and if I do, I have to be very careful with it. Looking around right now, it doesn't look like that he's actually mining with those SCVs or with those probes right now from that gas, so I think I can take a little bit of a chance, and I think I do in fact go for SCV's currently attack, and I wish I would go back to it, but I don't. I didn't shift click it enough, and that SCV gets taken down, so I lose my SCV scout a little bit earlier as I was managing my base. That's a little bit of a problem. Also gonna go ahead and bring up the unit overlay at the very least. So 16 SCVs and 1 Marine, or 17 versus 18 probes and 2 Zealots at this point. Getting that barracks in position right now. So the barracks with that tech lab going to be producing Reapers. I believe Reapers and Marauders throughout the game. And I'm in fact going for a secondary barracks as well, so that's going to be another barracks. I'm also getting my orbital command early because I'm thinking perhaps I can try to abuse or use that high ground and use scan in order to see up it. That seems to be a strategy that I like. It's worked out fairly well where I can jump from the high ground to the low ground when those Zealots are coming to chase me, scan the high ground, shoot those Zealots. Those Zealots will have to run all the way back around to try to get me, and I can jump back up to the high ground and shoot back down once again. And that's a fairly decent strategy for me. I'm going to go ahead and use those Reapers and just take down that probe. So yeah, probes take 3 shots from Reapers, so 3 Reapers will be able to single shot or single round a probe if they're all focusing on that same unit right now. Getting some additional supply depots as I'm trying to keep track of my macro management, wanting to make sure I never go into that, or not upkeep, but never get locked up early in the game right now. I have a reactor core on my barracks, or I think it's just called a reactor. I have a reactor on my barracks in order to be able to spam some more Marines right now, and I know that my opponent is on that south-hand side, so I'm thinking to myself, what do I really want to do? I'm going to go ahead and use those 4 Reapers and now head out. So I'm going to use those 4 Reapers and try to head out. I'm producing an additional Reaper back at my base just in case he tries to test my front door with perhaps 2 or 3 Zealots, and in fact he is. If you look on the mini-map right now, there is in fact some blue coming up that ramp, and I don't notice it in time, and I think I finally notice it now, and I just realized that he is in fact attacking. So I have 1 Reaper and 3 Marines trying to fight back against, what, 5 Zealots right now, or 4 Zealots. Zealots now fighting. A couple of them are low hit points. I'm trying to move my Reaper back away so that I can buy a little bit more time right now. So just trying to do some fighting. Reaper on that backside, the Reaper dealing the most of that damage. Now that one Reaper once again get a takedown, so I'm gonna have a couple. I have one Zealot left in my base. 4 Reaper's gonna go ahead and finish that off. Down it goes, and yeah, and I'm gonna once again move back out with those Reapers. He's dealt first blood, so I really need to do something in terms of dealing damage at this point. Gonna go ahead and build another supply depot towards that position, and now move out with 5 Reapers. So hopefully those 5 Reapers will be successful. Also, I want to make sure that I'd never ever get a mothership rushed again. That was very, very painful. Kudos to that Protoss player who mothership rushed me, even though I had a very, very effective harassment. So I'm going to go ahead and put down that starport. And whenever you're playing against Protoss, you want to see if he has a fleet beacon or robotics facility. If he has robotics facility, he's going for immortals, so you want banshees. And I quickly come in, quickly see that he has a whole bunch of stalkers, and those stalkers are just going to be able to focus down my Reapers, and I realize, okay, the Reapers are not going to work. He sacrifices Zealots, and now I'm in a little bit of trouble. I'm a little bit behind. I have a lot of energy on my orbital command right now, because I thought that I was going to start trying to do that scanning trick, but in fact I am not, so I'm going to start using that call down, and I'm going to go ahead and try to jump down to that lower position and perhaps take another expansion right now. I wasn't able to. I should have scanned his base to figure out if he was going immortals or if he was going for if he was going for carriers. So if I saw that Stargate, definitely go for a reactor core or reactor with Vikings. Otherwise, go for the tech lab for Banshees, because the Banshee is what I found to be the best counter to the Immortal. Even though it does 11 damage, so the overshields only reduce 1, it has a double attack. So the Banshee is the only unit that I've seen that does 20 damage cheaply towards an immortal. And right now getting a secondary factory as well. That factory going to be used in order to get some siege tanks, and those siege tanks work out fairly well. I do in fact get a reactor core for medevacs and Vikings right now. And looking at my command center has 121 energy, still trying to move around. Perhaps I should click just a little bit. So this is how fast my screen is moving around as I play. I hotkey all of my buildings, so it tends to jump around just a little bit. Siege tank now being built, so I have double factories with double tech labs. So I want to use those siege tanks and very, very effectively as the best as I can, and also trying to get some additional gas at my natural expansion. I'm hoping that my opponent does not have a tech lab yet, or have an expansion yet. So now producing units from like 2 factories, 1 starport with a reactor, and 2 barracks, 1 tech lab, 1 reactor. So I am macroing fairly well at this point in the game. Have a decent sized army. I do a quick scan and realize that there is in fact no units no expansion. So I think, okay, this is going to be a good time to move out right now. As if I can move out and in transition, quickly take down a probe as I was moving out, and I'm like, okay, let's see what exactly I can do with this right now. I do have the problem of not being able to see up to that high ground, and I forgot to create my medevac early enough, so I'm a little bit behind at this point. I'm going to go ahead and I have 1 single siege tank trying to build some more supply depots as well. And now going to try to siege that siege tank within range, and perhaps try to take down any of these buildings. I don't see any building here, so I'm looking pretty safe right now. I'm going to move that siege tank as close as I can, and then siege it, and then do a scan, and then start trying to shoot. So I'm going to move up those units and then trying to fight with those marauders. I want my siege tank to start dealing damage towards those stalkers. I'm going to quickly take down one of those buildings, and now here I am continuing the fight. So there's a lot of stalkers, marauders, taking down that zealot so easily. Blink not researched yet, so this is really just luck. I'm just really lucking out at this point, as I'm going to try to take down some of these forges, the forge, and the rest of these tech buildings. Then a quick blink coming into play, so that blink just really catching me off guard. Those marauders not getting slowed. I'm trying to continue to push in and out, hoping that siege tank is able to blast a little bit more. I have a couple of Vikings back in my base, continuing to try to macro, not doing too great of a job as I'm sitting on 1,200 minerals. Now back over here at the fight, continuing to fight, and those stalkers and those zealots finally have charged, so I'm going to be forced to just try to run back and regroup at my base, as I'm afraid that he's going to be trying to push out. So I'm going to try to siege some siege tanks on that high ground. Siege some siege tanks on that high ground to offer me a little bit of protection for those siege tanks. And now a marauder gets taken out in the middle of the field, so I have a couple Hellions, a couple Vikings, and now one or two siege tanks are on that high ground in order to just try to fight back right now. And looking fairly good. Now here comes those units. So Stalker is trying to come in, and stay tuned for part 2 and the conclusion of this replay between myself and Lojo here on Lost Temple.